Hey YouTube, this is the Art of Prepping. We're in part 6 now of our series of everyday carry items. Today we're going to be talking about keychains and how to integrate them into your systems. We've touched base about this before in previous videos about keychains, my everyday keychain and even survival keychains. We're just going to kind of do an overview on several of those at one time and look at all the options and tools commonly used on a keychain and why you would have those on the keychain. The one here in the middle is the keychain that I use for everyday carry. It may be slightly cumbersome and a little bit overkill for most people, and I totally get that. A lot of people like a very slim line. They prefer just to have just their keys and just a light. I didn't include my keys just to kind of reduce the bulk so we can see these items a little clearer. But I would agree that maybe a slim line keychain could be a little more user-friendly to some degree. But in terms of usefulness and resourcefulness, if you don't have the tools when you need it, you just don't have them. And so I like to have some redundancy in my system, and so I've picked these choices. But I do rotate some of the elements off and around with other elements, so I'll discuss that briefly. So what we have here is the base of our keychain, the foundation, which is they sometimes call it different names: aircraft mechanics wire keychain, or just a wire keychain. There's all kinds of things to say about that. That's the way to go. I like the threaded barrel on the keychain and the galvanized wire. I've never had any problems with them. I would imagine that they probably have a several hundred-pound test at minimum. I've never been able to break one over the years, but that holds all the gear together and provides a useful platform to build from. The first thing I'll talk about is my parachute cord. Parafob is what I call it, and I just did a simple braid here just to put some cording on the key ring. I don't know how many feet that is. It's probably maybe 5 or so feet, and I use 2 different colors. And that's just standard 550 Type 3 US made military spec parachute cord. You could also use other cording too, though, maybe even like bank line. The next item I have attached with a lobster claw is going to be just a folding knife, and I've already gone over the specs and specifics of what all these particular pieces of gear are on other videos, but a folding blade. Now, with that being said, you may want to go with and I do this sometimes. I'll switch out for a fixed blade. Here's a cold steel one, fixed blade, and so I'll switch those out depending on what I'm doing that day. If I'm doing more of a heavier utility type of task, or if I'm just going to the groceries. The next item would be a can opener. They got different kinds. This is a larger one. There's different kinds. Like this is the smaller one here, the P38 versus I think this is called the P52. I like the larger one just for more ease of use on the main keychain. You also have lights. This is a little LED light. They come in different form factors and different colors. That's something to consider as well. Pepper spray. I like to have at least one non-lethal method of self-protection on the keychain. There's tons of different brands. So that's up to you, but I like to have those. And then I like to have a means to make fire. So I have a little ferro rod, ferrocerium rod, and this is a little key keeper right here for a pocket. You can hook it on your pocket. Also, I have in there a little basically like a pill fob. Let me pull that out here. And so, in here you could put extra cash, emergency contact information, but what I've done is made it part of my fire kit, and so I stacked at least 3 or 4 cotton balls soaked with petroleum jelly to really get a fire going fast. And then, of course, the last thing is my storm whistle. This is the Windstorm model, very loud, second loudest whistle in the world, commercially made. Highly recommended. So those make up the bulk of this keychain, besides a couple stainless steel safety pins, and there might be another item or so on there. So that's the bulk of it. And on these secondary keychains here, a mini pry bar, another fob. This is a different type of whistle. And you also have another can opener and a tweezers. Stainless steel tweezers are also very handy. I never put them on my actual main keychain. It just adds just enough extra bulk that I don't really care for that, and I don't really find myself using, you know, tweezers a lot. And over here we also have more safety pins with the can opener, a fixed blade, and of course basically like a keychain button compass. And I don't typically use compasses a lot unless I'm going out in the woods. But this is kind of the setup. You can just, you know, interchange things like blades, fire makers, or fire starters, and non-lethal options. I used to carry a Kubaton on there, and then I switched over to pepper spray. Some people would say, well, even the whistle could be a non-lethal self-defense tool, especially the you know, the loudness that this puts out. I mean, it's even much louder than a Fox 40 whistle. It's actually so loud, it's a little hard to describe unless you have one, of how incredible this thing is, because up close, even within 10 to 15 feet, it literally will burn your ears. And the next model up, which is their loudest model, it's a little bit larger. That's why I think this is by far the largest that I would want to go for a whistle. And so that's the Windstorm, but the next one up is just called the Storm Whistle. And if you want the ultra loud, go with the full size. But once again, for keychain formats, I think this is by far the largest you would go. For a long time, I just stayed with a traditional classic Fox 40 whistle. I believe those are made in Canada, and they do very well. There's nothing wrong with Fox 40 whistles, but if you want something that has that extra bump, that boost of sound, good Lord, this is one option. So I'd be curious to hear about what kind of things and tools and capabilities that you like to have on your keychain, or are you a minimalist? You know, when I was a lot younger, I was more of a minimalist. I would have just basically you know, just a handful of keys on a basic key ring, and sometimes it was just a large split ring key ring, and I would have maybe a doohickey or two on there, and really no tools. And then the older I got, I was like, wow, it's good to have tools. And then I kind of figured out, okay, there's different categories of tools, and as we all know, it's a progression of knowledge. And you know, you do one thing, or you see someone else's keychain, and you're like, I kind of wouldn't mind having a light. And then when you get the light on your keychain, you use it almost every day, which is what I find out, especially when you go to the groceries late at night, and you come home and you're like, dang on, I forgot to turn the porch light on. Well, you don't have to freak out, because even if you did forget your everyday carry light in your pocket, you may still have, and you should, at least I do, one or two redundant lights. I used to carry 2 lights on the keychain. The other one finally just, the battery died, but you know, you can get these little lights though. These are just definitely more of a throwaway lights. You can replace the batteries if you want. It does have Phillips screws on the bottom. But I think I paid something like 25-30 cents each for these. I bought a little bag of them on Amazon about a year or so ago. And they have lithium coin cell batteries, and they have about a 10-year shelf life. It's kind of a no-brainer. Is it better to sometimes buy other things? They have rechargeable keychain lights, maybe for you. You know, like the Nightcore tube, and you know, you can go on and on. There's a stream light out there that's really good. There's all kinds of stuff. Phoenix makes a couple things. Surefire. It depends on the dollar amount and you know, the size profile. I just can't really argue with something this small that puts out that much light, that gives you the momentary on and off, and you can lock it on or off. So that's just an option there. And I just would like to say, you know, once again, everybody and all the new subscribers, welcome to the channel. Thanks again for subscribing, and feel free to share comments and stuff and about your keychain. And so this is part 6, and look forward to part 7. Thanks a lot.